What happens when grieving becomes unhealthy? In case we haven't met yet, I'm Jess X Goh, and I'm the sole founder of Life in Confidence. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on the latest insight into trauma recovery. If you found any nuggets of gold in this, please give this video a like, comment below, and share it with your loved ones who need to hear this. So I'm going to share with you the impacts of grief and the toll it takes on our mental health and our physical body, and what we need to do to move through it. This thing is that grief is part of the human experience, whether we like it or not. And this comes about through loss. Loss of a loved one, loss of a personal belonging, loss of a pet, loss of a relationship. And I'm going to share more about this in the next video about how the grieving journey looks like and the 13 types of loss that we can experience at any point in time in this human experience. However, I'm going to be focusing on grief and moving through it. So when we haven't done the inner work in moving through our emotions, the loss of anything can amplify everything. And this is where we need to really get clear in navigating our healing journey when it comes to grief. Grieving becomes unhealthy when you are in denial of your loss and you're not ready to face reality. There is an unhealthy attachment to this thing, relationship, or person. And when we do that and we're not allowing ourselves to process the grief internally, it creates chaos. And this chaos materializes into hoarding, such as holding on to material possessions that reminds us of that person or thing or pet. And this keeps us trapped in the past and not being fully present in our physical reality. So when we are in denial, we're not giving ourselves permission to move forward. And this is where the healing journey begins, is when we're ready to face reality and accept the loss, rather than seeing the loss as something bad has happened to our lives, a bad omen, a bad sign. So with grief, it shows up in our physical body and our mental health, such as insomnia, tiredness, loss of appetite, gastric distress, nausea, and also it shows up in heart palpitations, increase in blood pressure, high risk of heart attacks, and not being able to sit still with ourselves, and also through muscle weakness. So this is our body communicating to you, it's time to grieve. And also, what can help us to grieve in a healthy manner are a few things. We need to have support and be open to receive support from our family and friends, as well as our work colleagues and our boss. Because if we don't get that support, we're going to internalize and hold on to that loss, that attachment, and we start crumbling down, collapsing apart, because perhaps we have severed our ties with our loved ones. Perhaps we don't get along with our work colleagues and our boss. And that adds to the stress, the drama, the tension that we're experiencing within ourselves. So please be open to receiving support and to get access to different communities to help you move through it as well, to be there for you, especially if you're not able to function properly, because grief can cause disassociation, which I'm going to share in the next YouTube video. The other thing is that where are you at with your physical, mental, and spiritual state at the time of loss? So if you haven't built a strong foundation in your relationship with yourself, that loss is going to really shake you at your core and you don't know what to do about it. So it's really important to take the time to invest in ourselves, in caring for ourselves, in nurturing our minds, attending to our emotions, working through unprocessed traumas from the past. So we become a lot more resilient, a lot more stable when loss comes about, because it's part of life. The other thing is, what are your beliefs on a cultural and social level around death and grief? In Irish culture, they open up in sharing their emotions and feelings about losing a loved one after a funeral. That's how they process their grief. And in other cultures, shall I say Asian cultures, to be more specific, Japanese cultures, we don't express our emotions because it is shameful to show any signs of weakness. And that's what's been labeled by the patriarchy, by the matrix, that we haven't got ourselves together because we're too emotional. But we are emotional beings. That's how we're designed. We need to use, for example, anger to discern who has crossed our boundaries, to protect ourselves and our family. We need to use love in order for us to connect with community so we can survive and thrive together. So as human beings, just like animals, we need to be a part of a tribe, a gathering, a community, so we can support one another. And this is how we can coexist and exist for life in the long term. And this is a sustainable way of living. So the thing is, what are you doing when it comes to your grieving process? What do you see and feel about grief and loss? And were there times in your life that you have processed your loss? This is something worth reflecting on, because if we haven't processed through the different timelines of grief and loss, we're still carrying it in our body. And when we are not ready to deal with it, a crisis will show up to reveal to you, you need to deal with it now. So, my love, I really hope that this video gives you some insight into your grieving journey and of your loved ones as well. And if you feel that you're struggling with this or you need support around this, I invite you to come along to my workshops. And I share a lot of different techniques, healing modalities, and in a sacred container for you to really be with your emotions, to be vulnerable in an intimate space where you can be fully seen and heard, and for you to rise from the ashes of grief so you can finally start to move forward. You can also work with me one-to-one in a half-day or one-day trauma recovery retreat, just you and me in person, and I can tailor-make this experience, the trauma recovery journey in our time together with what you want to work on. You can also work with me online in my 3-month container called Find Yourself in Trust. If you are ready to transform all aspects of your life, this is not for the faint-hearted, and you must watch my free webinar, Overcome the Impacts of Childhood Traumas in Just 3 Months, to then book a free clarity call about this program. And lastly, I am running my online circle, Spring Equinox Women's Healing Circle, just for women, to shed away armoring and layers of distortion that they have around their feminine essence through the feminist movement, societal and ancestral cultural beliefs. And how can we embody more of who we really are, which is not by being a feminist, but our feminine presence. And this is what the world needs right now. So if you are up for any of these containers, please click on the link in the YouTube video description to learn more or to book your spot. So my love, grief is not something that we want to push away or stuff it down or to numb out, even though we want to. I totally get it. I've been there too. And what we need to do is to feel our feelings and to honor our feels and to see our feelings with love and compassion, that we are going through a suffering of loss, and to make peace with that loss and to set ourselves free from that unhealthy attachment to loss. And then we can accept the reality of loss and to invite new relationships to come through instead. And this is how we can turn things around with grief. Sending you all of my love.